The Welder's ultimate art seems to me like an expansion on the exploding attack from Bloodborne's Stake Driver, though obviously made much more powerful. It could also be inspired by the spring-loaded flame vent from Sekiro. The Duchess's design seems very Bloodborne inspired as well, but more specifically to Lady Maria, with a clothes with a half cape hanging from behind. The white hair they both have helps as well. This becomes especially clear with her Dawn outfit, which has a hat more closely matching Maria's, plus a similar color scheme to the clothing. The design of her mask is very similar to the one the Firekeeper wears in Dark Souls 3. She does act in a similar role and fashion as the hub maidens of many of the games, so it feels intentional. The dodges she has also seems very inspired by Bloodborne. They don't seem to be one-to-one animations, but the side dodges are pretty close I think. Recluse seems to call back to some witches in the prior games, like Beatrice and Zully, with her design, including her clothes being purple in color and having the tip of the hat droop instead of being upward. Her Dawn outfit also feels reminiscent of the Desert Sorceresses, with the design in the rim of the hood and the like. The Executor Cursed Sword playstyle is undoubtedly this game's take on the Sekiro parrying system, working fairly similarly to it, even as far as eventually breaking the posture of the enemy for a riposte. The way he holds katana specifically, and idle animations, and even while running, reminds me of how your character will hold it in Dark Souls 2 as well. The Revenant's design feels like it has a few inspirations from the previous games. Firstly, she's clearly an animated puppet of some sort, leading an obvious association to the doll from Bloodborne, but her Ghost Bride outfit also feels reminiscent of the Canehurst Ghosts from the same game, or even as far back as the New London Ghosts in Dark Souls 1. The relics you can equip on your character function somewhat similarly to blood gems in Bloodborne, except you equip them on your weapon in Bloodborne, instead of your character. The beach area in the Round Table personally reminded me a fair amount of the area where you first encountered the Old One in Demon's Souls. These couple of notes in the Round Table hold music reminded me of Majula's theme. No doubt there's hints of the other hub music in there as well, but that was the more direct one I spotted. This one could be a stretch, but the cliff at the end of the Round Table area feels reminiscent of the cliff end when you're leaving the Undead Asylum in Dark Souls 1. Probably helps that birds transport you away from here. There's a few movement options that seem to be added to Nightreign from Sekiro, but the one that stands out the most is the wall jumping, being the first time in the series where you can do something like this. There's also the grapple hook thing, but the function is very different between them. Some of the chests in Nightreign are literally just the Dark Souls 1 and 3 chests, no question about it. There was a few of these chest models in Elden Ring as well, but they were very rare. I always felt like they meant to change them and missed these, given one of them was removed from the 1.0 version. There's a talisman in Nightreign that just straight up gives you the symbol of Avarice head design from Dark Souls on your character when you equip it, along with all the passive effects that come with it. Enemies in Nightreign can pick up your rune bloodstain, just how enemies could pick up your blood echoes in Bloodborne. In Nightreign, you can sort of be invaded by Morgoth, just how you can in Dark Souls 2 by the Pursuer Shadows, just in random locations instead of select ones. After completing the Rot Area event, and when wielding Hand of Millennia, you gain the ability to rally back health just like in Bloodborne, which of course was a mechanic in Elden Ring proper, but this game doesn't nerf your flask heals as far as I can tell. This giant stone doorway that leads to the final boss of an expedition reminds me of the stone door that leads into the Throne of Want in Dark Souls 2 and other similar doors in the series. Chronologically, Gaping Dragon is the first boss from the Dark Souls games to be outright used in Nightreign, not just a reuse of assets like the Erdtree avatar. It's literally the same boss by name, leaving no room for argument. Before the fight, they also have a horde of rats as the pre-boss encounter, no doubt in reference to the rats in the depths, the location where Gaping Dragon is found. You can also cut his tail, and it will drop a randomized weapon when you do, hilariously enough, just like in Dark Souls. And the music for this boss and all the ones from Dark Souls will have their corresponding soundtrack as well. When you beat any of the Dark Souls 1, and I believe 2, bosses, they'll have the custom victory achieved pop-up from those games. You just have to give it a moment to show before looting the boss's loot. It'll even play the sound effect that comes with that pop-up. This will come up again shortly. The Centipede Demon also makes a comeback. You can still cut his limbs, and they do become an additional enemy, and can regrow just the same. However, his color scheme isn't red like it seemingly is in Dark Souls, it's more of a grayish color. He also seems to have additional attacks, which won't be uncommon for these bosses that make a return. They'll either have new moves, or some old moves will have their effect on the player change in some way, as some mechanics are redundant. And they'll sometimes stagger for riposte as well, which wasn't a thing in the first 2 Dark Souls games. The Smelter Demon from Dark Souls 2 makes a return, but interestingly, it's somewhat of a mix of both of the ones you can find in that game. It starts off with the orange fire effect, making it more like the one in Iron Keep, but when he fires up, he does gain a blue color alongside the orange, and eventually he can become fully blue, like the Broom Tower one. Originally shown in promotional material, Duxtia Freya spins her way into Nightreign, alongside her little spider minions. But as mentioned, there's a few differences. For instance, she sets up a spider web near the end of her fight that makes you fat roll near her. Dancer I don't think I've noticed has new moves, but that makes sense if so, since they fit in much more naturally to Elden Ring than the first 2 Dark Souls. In the same vein as Victory Achieved, you can get an Air of Fire Destroyed message when you kill a Dark Souls 3 boss. Not only does Nimbus King make a comeback, as we've known since the reveal trailer of this game, he also is the only pre-Day 3 boss that has a hidden health bar. Somewhat predictable, but still diabolical. The pre-boss fight also has a dragon and a beastman, which seems to be a stand-in for the Nameless King and his King of Storm's dragon, in a similar fashion as the champion's Great Tender in Dark Souls 3 for Sif and Artorias. Darkdrift Knight Folger's second face hand feels pretty similar to Manus's, having that dark sludge element to it and being incredibly flexible. Almost feels like it has a mind of its own. The title Darkdrift Knight also feels like it could be a callback to Artorias, in a similar vein as the Abyss Watchers, so perhaps the missing arm also connects to him, and generally this boss is a reference to the Ulysses storyline. The final Night Lord, Night Aspect Hailstorm's moveset, personally reminded me of Gale's, especially the first phase, with the somewhat sluggish but still heavy swings moveset. The way he scrapes the sword along the ground also feels reminiscent of Vendrick in Dark Souls 2. One of the swords he uses is definitely supposed to be this game's Moonlight Sword as well, just spooky night themed. Finally, we're going to finish off with all the skins that you unlock after the final boss that are literally just Dark Souls skins. If you think there's anything I missed in this video, let me know in the comments below. No doubt there will be more callbacks with updates and DLCs in the future as well. And if you're inclined, I have made a video like this for base game Elden Ring and its DLC, if you'd like to watch that after this.